All right, dudes and dudettes. Where you going, bud? Where you going? He's going to attack his owl. You got your owl friend? You got your owl friend, bud? Are you going to go get that doggy? Go get that doggy. Go find that doggy. Where's your doggy? Where's the dog? Where's the dog? Can you guys guess what we're going to be doing an episode on today? Haha, it's not him. It's not you. Sorry, bud. Be careful. No, I'm nuts. All right, before we get any fan comments there, the bird has lived with me since he was a baby. He very well knows what a fan is, and he's very good at getting him around himself around the house. So I know people are going to worry about the fans and stuff like that. My parrot, I don't do the same with, even though he kind of just hangs out, but he is not accustomed to being inside with the fans. So if he comes inside, then we turn the fans off. With the owl, it's not quite the same, just because he's grown up in the house and he's been with us for so long and he knows where he wants to hang out. He's staring at his dog right now, so he's gonna probably go pick on Duke here in a minute, but he's just out to be out and to distract you guys from what we're about to do. So this episode here is to finish up Rick's place, and it's the last episode for right now of the saga of Rick over at Emerald Coast Zoo. This one is with one of his keepers. At the end of the video, I'm going to mention that I'm going to bring you on a tour, but I've already done that because I'm not very good at putting the videos together piece by piece when they should be. So if you guys hear that and you haven't had the tour of Rick's, you go back to the two previous episodes. There's part 1 and 2 of Rick basically taking us on a small tour of the park. We only showed you about a quarter of the park. We still want you to go and check it out for yourself. And it's very, very, very wonderful place to be. And then on top of that, you got Rick there, and he's hilarious. So it's a good time all the way around. With this one, I'm going in with one of his keepers. So it's a little bit different. It's not a tour. We're going to focus on one species of animal here, which is one of my top favorite species of animals. And I know a little bit about the species, but I've never had the joy of actually working with this species. I've been around them. I've been able to interact with them, but to say that I've actually worked with this species as a whole would be a flat out lie. I have not been able to. So what I like to do, and a lot of the times when we go to different parks like Wild Florida, if you watch those episodes, those are way back. If you go back to those, you'll see me usually bring the keepers out and show me what they do. Even if it's with crocodilians, venomous, whatever it may be, I like to see how other people interact with the animals, because there's not one solid way to do things. There's a bunch of different ways to get different behaviors, and people use different training techniques. And I like to see things that, you know, kind of pique my interest and change some of the things that I do. And I'm constantly morphing my style of how I work with animals based off, you know, how other people do it. If it works there, if it doesn't work, you know, what am I looking for? What am I looking at? But I can't do that if I always go in there and just ask to film with said animal, because number one, I'm not the one that trains the animal over at that place, whatever place it may be. And I'm also not the one that spends the time with said animal, and everyone's got a different personality. So it's nice to see a bunch of different personalities from same kind of species like crocodilians, alligators, all that stuff. It's nice to see different people doing different things. It's nice to see what works and what doesn't. And basically what I'm trying to dial down to is that I can learn from everybody just as much as anybody else can. So I got to grow up into this. My father did this before I did. My uncle did this as well. So I was raised around wildlife, and I was very lucky to be able to do so. I also had people like Otter John Jones and Jonathan and everybody at the Seminole Tribe of Florida to build me up and basically make me what I am today. So if I didn't have the proper people in place and I didn't follow the proper things, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So I got to give a lot of thanks to the people that helped me out. Now, I'm saying that to say this. Just because I've been in this for a long time doesn't mean I know everything. Not at all. I'm not even scratching the surface as far as I'm concerned, as far as the knowledge that some people have versus what I have. Can I work with animals? Yeah. If you put me in a situation and you put me with the animals and I can get a base direction of where to go, I could pretty much get in there and do what I need to do. But if I'm not allowing myself to listen to everybody and anyone, because you can learn what not to do and you can learn what to do. And you can learn from somebody that's been doing it for 6 months, and you can learn from somebody that's been doing it for 6 years. Somebody may focus a little bit harder on a certain species than you do. So I like to get all my information, research all my facts, do all that online, and get as much information as I can, but I also like to reach out if I'm working with something new and something specific, like the anteater. This will be the second time that I think I've had one in a very long time, and the first one that we did have was not mine. It was just one that I took care of, and I didn't get a lot of information back in the day when I was younger about it. So I looked more towards Andrew at Wild Florida to kind of guide me on that, as well as Rick, because Rick has one as well. So I asked a lot of questions to them. Basically what I'm saying is keep your minds open. Don't ever close off your mind. Don't ever think that you've learned everything, because as soon as you think you've learned everything, you've lost the ability to learn. And that's something that we need. And this constantly changes. There's always new information coming out. So if we get stuck in old ways and we force our minds to stay closed on how to do things, then we're never going to be able to progress to another level of keeping these animals safely, healthy, and make sure that they're good, mentally stimulated, the whole 9 yards. And let's see what Bethany has to say. Let's see what she does. All right, boom, let's go.
Sorry.
All right, we got Bethany over here. This is one of Rick's workers. She's gonna show me the penguins. We got the penguins over here. I'm underneath my nice canopy. I'm on my rock. Bethany, go do your thing. Boom. All right, she's going in there. They're inside cooling off. Oh my God. The Three Musketeers. Look at them. What are their names?
So we have Big Z, Chicken Joe, and Maverick.
Oh, it's my favorite movie ever.
Yep, and you can see why we named them that.
Surfs up. Well, Rick surfs, and the sun's. Everybody surfs over here. This is the perfect names.
Yep. So I'm gonna hand you some fish.
And if you haven't seen Surfs Up, you're fired. Ooh.
So if you just want to put it over the water so they can come reach, they're not really good at like grabbing out of your hand. So your job is to put it straight into their mouth, and they're gonna get a feel for you, and then they'll start coming up.
Munchkins.
These
Are they
guys
popping
are
a head up
super
first?
Yeah, they'll start like coming closer, and then Chicken Joe, when you see him like pop up, he'll start swimming at you like a bullet. Your job is to put it straight in his mouth, because his depth perception is just slightly off because he got pecked in the eye. So with him, he usually just wants you to do all the work for him.
Is Chicken Joe the blue band?
Yes, Chicken Joe's the blue band, Mavericks are teal, and Big Z's are black.
Okay, so Chicken Joe's over here. I don't think Chicken Joe's got
it.
here.
Thing.
Here, in your mouth.
Yeah.
I did the work for you.
And he's a shy. He's one of the shy ones. Maverick and Big Z really don't care too much, but Chicken Joe's always been our shy guy.
That's it. We are off schedule, by the way. I usually do this at 12:30. We're a little bit early. That's my fault.
Just a little bit, but that's okay. So these guys are African penguins. So a lot of people don't know that we have summer penguins.
Go into that, because every time I say penguins in Florida, everybody freaks out. No, we don't need the snow. Tell them all about it.
So these guys could not endure the same temperature as the ones in the Arctic. These guys are naturally on the beaches of South Africa. There's a beach there you can actually pay for admission, and you see hundreds of those guys just walking around doing their own thing. These guys are super unique because they do something called a catastrophic molt. So unlike most animals who molt throughout the year, dropping 1 or 2 feathers, these guys decided they're gonna knock it out once and just be good. So they decided that they're gonna drop every single feather on their body just once a year.
So they dump naked, completely
Basically,
naked?
They have a pretty undercoat that comes in, but they look crazy, and that's why they're called a catastrophic molt. So they'll go through a couple stages. The first stage is where they'll do, they'll like basically triple their intake of fish. So our guys are really easy to tell if they want, or if they're planning on molting, because they'll go from their 10 to 18 fish to 30 to 40 fish within a day.
So they're pretty much doubling their diet.
Yes,
right
because they want to
go
put
molt.
on that fat. Because on the second stage of their molting phase, they don't eat in the wild at all for 20 days.
20 days with no food. Let's see if any of you guys out there can do that. But that's pretty interesting.
Yep. So when these guys in the wild do their molt, they're not waterproof anymore, so they cannot ensure that their body temperature is going to stay the same, and they don't want to get too cold. So they won't go in the water where they naturally hunt. Here, they get the privilege of eating 1 or 2 if they want it. But if they don't want to eat, they don't have to. But most of the time, they'll take 1 or 2 from me, like during the day, and then they'll be good. But the other guys are usually typically eating 10 to 18 fish.
So they're kind of pecking on it. They're kind of going after it, but That's pretty interesting though. So they build up that much fat just to keep their body temperature where it's at. And Bethany said she couldn't do this, by the way, and you're doing fantastic. So she wasn't gonna be able to do it on film, but she's doing a fantastic job over here. But that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
and I'm learning this too, just so everybody knows out there. I had no idea about any catastrophic molt or anything like that, but that's pretty interesting. Doubling a diet and then dropping everything to keep that temperature.
So what's really cool about these guys is, unlike most animals in the animal kingdom, the mom usually does all the work. These guys co-parent really well. Most penguins do co-parent, but these guys do, it's basically a 50-50 split. The mom hunts, the dad lays on the eggs, the mom lays on the eggs. And then at a month old for their babies, they'll kind of wander off and do their own thing, but they're still staying around their parents. And then at like 3 months old, they basically just join like a, I like to say like a gang of teenage penguins. And they basically go on like a spiritual journey for a couple years.
They gotta find themselves.
Yeah, basically think of Rumspringa, just really long. So when they get to that age where they're ready to do their adult molt, they'll come back to their colony, and now they're accepted back into the colony because they don't like to deal with teenagers. They only deal with adults.
So it's pretty interesting because it's a lot like the birds of prey. It's like I tell everybody when I do my shows with the owls and stuff like that. You kids out there, consider yourselves lucky. You got a solid 18 years or more these days with mom and dad where you get to hang out and get taken care of. These guys get a couple of months just like the owls and stuff like that. The owls, birds of prey, a lot of other birds get a lot more time than that. But think about that, 3 months and then you're off on your own spiritual journey to find who you are.
Yep.
And then you get to come back when you're an adult. Wish I could do that with my kids. Been trying to tell them to get a job already for months.
What's really cool about the black and white on their feathers is it's so unique. It's the same uniqueness as our thumbprints.
So
everybody is different, and you can kind of tell because Maverick's more polka dotty on his white, and then Chicken Joe's got that white dot on his butt, and then Big Z is more plain white and black. But it's really easy.
So Maverick's right here. No, is that Maverick?
No, that was Maverick. Yes.
That is Maverick.
And then
Chicken Joe's got the little butt on there.
And then we got Big Z.
And Big Z with the clean.
So it's really cool, and I like to always tell people as a keeper, even if you took those bands off, and even if you Freaky Friday'd all my animals, I could still tell you who's who because personalities are super big, especially in penguins.
And same thing I tell everybody with every animal. Every animal may be the same species, but not everyone's got the same personality. We see it with reptiles, we see it with birds, we see it with pretty much everything across the board, just like people. Everybody's got their own personality, their own little thing going on, which is pretty cool with these guys too. How much do they usually eat around this time of day?
So they've chosen their last meal to be their biggest meal. So they usually will start eating, like, they'll eat probably 4 or 5 fish on their last meal, all individually. But like the morning meal and this meal you're in is usually only 1 or 2 if they feel like it, because they try to make me drop as many fish into the floor, so when I leave for the day, they have snacks. Because usually I'll come back and all the fish that are on the pool floor will be gone because they got hungry in the middle of the night.
Oh, smart little dudes.
Yes. So these guys were super shy when we first got them, and they've gone through 2 keepers, and then I decided just to come in and see if I could do anything, like get hands-on with them, and we have finally figured it out that they've attached to me. So it's really funny because when I'm out sick or something, they have issues with our keepers or males and stuff like that. But we have another keeper who's also 5 foot and short,
and has an easier time doing.
Yeah, she's always easier because they attach to females more than males. They don't mind either one. They're just more comfortable with women.
But you could tell you've spent the time with them, because even with me in here, you can see they're a little bit weary, like kind of want to pop up, but every time they pop up, it seems like they put eyes on you.
Yeah, they're hoping that I have something.
Way more on your side. Here, you can take this fish, see if they'll take one from you. Let's see how far this goes, but they definitely are keeping an eye on her. Probably trying to make sure if I'm a good guy or not.
And sometimes, like most birds, will just kind of feel you out, and some people they'll attach to super fast, and then some people they're like, no, I'm not going near him. It's super weird.
Smart. It's a lot like the parrots and stuff. The birds of prey are a little bit different to some extent. They're a little bit food motivated, and you can switch them off a little bit easier. But I think when it comes, but you could definitely see she definitely has a much larger connection than I do. Granted, I just got here.
Yeah, and I've been in here for, like when we first started, I was sitting in here for hours just trying to get him to feed from me. because we do administer meds in the morning. So we give basically like a malaria pill. So like your dog's heartworm pills, we give once a day. And then basically think of like a Fred Flintstone vitamin as well. So we give them basically like vitamins and some medicine. So before I came in, it was really hard to get them to take that medicine because they didn't want to eat out of hand. And now I've gotten it to where they eat out of hand every time. And medicine is the easiest part of my day and not the worst, which it used to be at the start. And it's because you don't ever want to double dose them. So if somebody gets, well, like you never want to triple dose them. Double dosing is not too big of a deal. But when you do the triple dosing, like that's when you can start seeing like side effects from them. But what's nice about it is, or what was bad about it is if somebody got double dosed, I didn't run meds for the rest of the day.
Right, because you don't know if anybody's going to
exactly.
get
And
triple.
if they hit them, if that one bird, because most of the time who was getting double dosed was the ones who were the hungriest.
Right, right.
So now I never double dose. Everyone gets their same pills, and it's nice because I can pull my medicine fish away from whoever's already taken it and be like, you gotta wait, and then I'll give it to them, and then I'll just start feeding them.
So it takes time. Just like with everything else we do, it takes time. You got to spend the time with the animals, especially these guys. They didn't raise from babies. So these guys came over from Michigan, I believe. And, you know, what ends up happening is just the same as everything else. And Bethany is going to be taking care of the lemurs that I just brought over here. My little Fiji and the two little boys. So I'm comfortable with it. I mean, I'll show you guys the rest of the park here in a minute too, but I wanted to come in here and do something with one of the keepers.
Yeah.
Like, remember we're at Emerald Coast Zoo over here at Rick's place. And I like to show what the keepers do. I like them to express how they work, what they do, to show you guys that there's not one certain way to do any certain thing. There's a lot of different ways that you can do things, but everything at the end always takes time, dedication, and if you're not willing to spend the time and dedication, you're never going to get what you want from the animals. Just like she's talking about with the medications, if she didn't come in here and spend the time to do what she did, she's obviously going to have problems giving those vitamins, giving the medications that they need, and that goes for all the animals at the park. So if you don't put the time in, you're never going to get out what you want to get from your animals because you're not putting in what you want to get back. So anything you put in, you're going to get back. And over here, you can tell everybody is very into it. Everybody is very into taking care of everything here. Everything is very well kept, very clean. You're going to see that in a minute. I'll take you on a mini tour of the zoo. And then maybe we'll do an episode with Rick as well. But thank you, Bethany.
No problem.
Fist bump. She said she couldn't do the camera. She did great. You did awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you guys. Big Z, Maverick, and Chicken Little. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, go watch Surf's Up. It's a good movie. If you got kids. If you don't got kids too. If you like to surf. I don't care. Either way. I love the movie. All right, dudes. So there's the rest of the enclosure right here. They got their little indoor spot. They can go into there and cool off if they want to. But like we said, not every penguin needs the snow. These guys are from South Africa. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out. Boom.